All right, we are live.
Okay, I'd like to call to order the Finance and Audit Committee meeting for Thursday, October 13th, 2022. Teresa, will you call roll?
Absolutely. Gordon,
Here.
Sean,
Here.
Dr. Pandolfi.
Here.
Thank you. Michelle,
Here.
Ron.
Here. Okay. I believe everyone has the agenda, so are there any changes to that? If not, I'd like a motion to approve it. So move. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay, we'll proceed. The minutes were posted as well. I assume you've had time to review those. Any comments or changes to those? If none, motion to approve the minutes. So moved. Second. And all in favor, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Emmy and Michelle.
I was having a problem getting unmuted. Aye.
Yeah, that I. Mhm.
Is that an aye? Okay, so that's approved. Okay, first item on the agenda is our monthly financials. These were posted. This will become a standing item for the committee. It's one of the reasons we moved the meeting back a week from the second Thursday. And there are some, you'll notice some format changes in here. So it's, you'll see on the operating fund, which are the first 2 pages of the report, you'll see 3 columns for the current month activity, 3 columns for the year-to-date activity, and then the rightmost column numerically is the current year budget. The budget that's in this report is the June budget. The staff proposed that will change obviously when we get to later in the meeting and for the next subsequent meeting. So I don't have any specific things to address. The intent, this is a bit of a learning curve for the committee, but the intent is to, look at changes during the course of the month in comparison to prior year and what the budget is, see where we stand on a year-to-date basis against both budget and the prior year. And then Kwan can make comments about anything that's significant or other staff as well. I would note that as is normal, you'll see on the second page in terms of the excess of expenditures are in the 13+ million range. That's typical. We'll talk about cash flow structure when we get to the investments item. So we're trending pretty much in line with last year in terms of the cash flow. Kwan, you have some comments?
Yeah, I actually have a few. On the revenue side, at the end of September, we received tax revenue close to $1 million, which is about 40% higher than last year. All the tax revenue we received so far is a delinquent tax. Last year, we had a clawback from Jackson County. So the current year's delinquent tax revenue is higher than last year. Also, for fines and fees, that revenue line has increased by at least 20%. 2 big reasons. One is the passport service. We received over $10,000 last month. The other one is meeting room rental. We just started that service at the genealogy. On the expenditure side, both payroll and the library operational accounts we spend about 20 to 24% of the budget. Library materials, that's about 35% of the budget because we paid annual subscription fee for databases in August. That's a quick review of the financials for the month. And both will be presented to the at the board meeting too.
Right. Do you have the balance sheet up there? Cody, go to the third page. Okay, you'll notice on the capital fund, actually both the general fund and the capital fund in the current assets section, you'll see that we broke out the investments at cost and then the market adjustment. And again, we'll talk about the capital fund when we get to the agenda item. But with the interest rates and given the structure of the portfolio, that the capital fund is down about 8.4% against cost. And then the other piece that's different is on the back end, the last two pages. Cody, if you'll flip to those. There you go. There are two pages showing the expenditures by vendor for the month of September. Quan has that again categorized in four major components: capital, materials, payroll, and operating expenses. Again, this is intended to give us some idea of what who the vendors are for the majority of the expenses. Excuse me. Notice on the second page towards the bottom, there were $30,833 plus of payments under $1,000. Again, we'll change this as necessary, but the idea is to cover substantially all the disbursements. So if there's any questions on that, you can ask them now, or you can send an email and ask Quan for information on those. Any comments on that, Quan?
No.
Okay. Any comments from anyone else? All right, next item on the agenda is the disbursements policy and procedure, RFQ. Just to refresh everyone, the board approved this last spring. We deferred the project until this fall. The RFQ was sent out, the initial RFQ was sent out in, I want to say early August. We got responses back from four different firms. Those firms are on your summary sheet here. Cody, you can flip to the next, there you go, to the summary page showing those respondents. Quan and I, after the direction from the committee, the last meeting had conference calls with everyone to just get a little more information about their capabilities, staffing, where the staffing would come from, make sure they understood the scope of what was desired. That was one of the main issues that was apparent from the initial responses and really with the fees that were proposed. So we asked each of them to go back and review their proposal as well as their fees. And what you're seeing here are the summary results from both conference calls and any changes that they had. The comments are just a combination of from our notes from the conference calls as well as from the submissions. The top one is Forvis. You'll see that they had a fixed upper fee really of $16,000. CFO Systems is the one that's different. They are not a CPA firm. I'll call it a traditional CPA firm. And then Reuben Brown being in the third line and CLA Connect being the fourth line. So the budgeted fee for this project was $35,000 that the board approved, and that is in the current budget. Any questions before I take a next step here? Okay, the kind of the direction that we landed from the discussions and Quan and my subsequent discussions, Forvis has obviously the lowest fee. They're a traditional CPA firm. They're actually the former BKD, for those of you who have been around a long time. They were the auditor for a 12 or 13-year period for the library back about 15 years ago. They are the current auditor for the Kansas City Public Library. They have a consultant, the lead consultant who is local, has industry experience and is the head of the consulting division for the nonprofit group that they work with. We discussed with them the kind of the approach to this being do an initial review and then get some additional documentation and recommendations put together. So the timing of it would be probably a course of I'm going to say 6 to 8 weeks, and which is the case with all of the groups here. The timing would be 6 to 8 weeks with the reports coming sometime in January or February. CFO Systems is a different sort of a firm. They are all experienced and seasoned executives. They don't provide any assurance services. They do things like contract consulting. They do interim CFO work. They'll do ongoing consulting work with management. They do have boots on the ground experience. As I noted, the lead consultant is the former Rockhurst University CFO. That's pretty typical of the people within CFO Systems. And again, they would do a tiered approach, being an initial review, make some assessments, and then decide what the next layer down would be. Sort of take the project to the necessary level, but not take it if we don't need to go to every to the ultimate level of detail on transactions and documentation. They wouldn't do that if it doesn't produce any value in terms of the end result. The other two firms, Reuben Brown, because of their fee and being St. Louis based, we are not recommending them. And the same with CLA Connect, even though their fee is within range. The staffing would all be out of Indianapolis. So it seems like the other two being local and kind of fitting our bill, both in terms of fees and the firm profile, are the top two candidates. So Quan, do you want to comment on those at this point?
Yeah, Forvis, well, I like Forvis approach to conduct the service, and also they have extensive experience with not-for-profit and governmental entities, especially in Missouri and in the metropolitan area. CFO, they have a lot of real-world experience, very strong consulting, and maybe in a broader-based service consulting approach.
Do you have a recommendation?
Well, Forvis is the lowest bidder, and they have, So if we based on the cost, then Forvis would be the top choice.
And did I understand also that there was experience with the Kansas City Public Library?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we can go with either one of these. They're different experience levels. Forvis obviously deals with, like I said, similar entities. You get, you get the benefit of the lower cost staff. There'll be recommendations, documentation. The thought Quan and I had was perhaps, is looking at who ends up, where we end up down the road in terms of supporting consulting, whether that's Forbes or CFO Systems, but that's a future decision. So the recommendation is to go with Forbes for this project and bring it back to the committee. Hopefully we get done here. The only twist in this project, and it's on a later agenda item, is that Quan will be moving, with the approval, to a more current blacklight system. And we'll explain that later. So there may be some timing issues here in terms of the documentation. My concern was when this surfaced, is that we don't want them to come in and review a system that is going to be replaced. So we'll get the new system up and running and then have them come in and look at that in terms of the procedures that are done. So should be a fairly short transition period, but there are some timing issues there.
But again, what was the upper limit of the Forbes proposal?
It's $14,000 to $16,000.
So
I'd like to move approval of the Forbes proposal at a cost not to exceed $15,000. Is that appropriate?
their bid is 16.
Okay,
If that's what is that what you intended?
that's what I intended, yeah.
So Teresa, the blanks are move to contract with Forbes to conduct a review, disbursement policy and procedures, including a report to the Finance Committee Board with total project fees and costs not to exceed 16,000.
Thank you.
John moved that. And is there a second?
I'll second, Michelle.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
Yeah, this is Yummy. I have a question. I just was wondering, is there, I know this is the best price, but overall, I just wanted to make sure we're not missing anything so that everyone feels comfortable that it is actually, that they will do the best job.
Well, as the maker of the motion, I'm very comfortable with it. I'm aware of the firm. I'm not aware of their current name, but I'm aware of the background of that firm, and they have been excellent for a long period of time. They've had local experience in the area. I think that's helpful. They have had particular experience with Kansas City Public Library, which I also find helpful, and being the lowest cost and having a vast experience, I think that they meet the test.
Yeah, I'm going to read from some of my notes here. The lead consultant is local. I didn't write down how long she was with, but I think it's several years now. She was the CFO of the Ronald McDonald House. It's not a large organization, but it is a not-for-profit. She's the advisory services director. Forbes is a merger between BKD and Dixon Hughes, which is a Southeast U.S. Firm. And, and this is a bit of a tangent, what's happening with the CPA industry is you're seeing a lot of mergers because of cost structure savings and and market, trying to expand markets without overlapping each other. So they bring to total they're about 5,000 employees currently, 500 partners. They do have the experience. I think they also have the Blackbaud experience. So I am comfortable with this as well. And, I guess we'll know when they're done, but based on their experience, the other gentleman who was on the call was an audit partner, has extensive experience. He actually was in BKD subsequent to 2007. So he's very familiar with the industry, and I think, we'll benefit from that as well. So I'm comfortable with the decision of Forbes.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you.
Any further comments? If not, all in favor? Aye.
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 Aye,
There we go.
I'm trying.
All
I
right,
said no mistake.
and aye, so that's 5. All right, good, thank you. We'll get going on that. Okay, next item on the agenda is going to talk about investments. Cody, if you can bring up I think there was one. There we go. A couple of things on board docs. This is the primary discussion page there. The other thing that Quan had posted was just the detailed statement for the month of September, I believe. We're not going to go through that, but that's just for reference. Just again, background. Quan and I had initially intended to have something at the last meeting. We had a meeting with Central Bank, which is the trust department of Central Bank. And we had a meeting with them to just talk about the investment structure, try and get on the same page with things. We put this together for the purpose of illustrating our current position and showing both the operating fund and the capital fund. The two charts below illustrate. Cody, can you either shrink that or scroll it up or something? Well, there we go. Thank you. So the top section of the table is just the mechanics. You'll see I had Quan use the data from the levy P&L, and he put together the projected cash flow. So these are estimates. The interest income is estimates as well. So there may be movement in terms of how things actually roll out, but it's close enough for what we're doing here. The same thing on the capital fund in the lower box of the table. We have the cash section and then the section showing the bonds and the maturity structure. So the charts show you how cash flow occurs during the course of these periods. Again, 3 periods within each fiscal year, and then the last 3 periods are really for the investment maturities. So as we're fully aware, the operating fund goes into a deficit position during the end, like you saw here, the end of the second quarter, and the lowest point historically is in November. December tax revenues start coming in, so those operating funds are restored and really for the rest of the year. So the bonds that are in the operating account, which approximate about 15 million par value, are all sitting right now in short term. By short term, I mean less than a year, and in cases here, I think most of them are within 9 months or less. So there's really very little duration risk. And with the current market, we'll be picking up additional interest income as those mature and as we get new funds invested. The capital fund is a different animal. Okay, as you can see, based on the cash flow, and again, Quan just projected out the expenditures using the existing capital, the known capital costs. And we're using the maturities as they're stated in the current holdings. The interest income is at 1%. Again, I'll get to the detail there, but we're locked into most of these for the full duration. So what's happening on the capital side is that we're in an operating deficit from now until really sometime in 2025. So any funding for capital costs, unless we want to take unless we take a loss on a holding, or you have a substantial turn in interest rates to where they get back down to where they were in 2021, you're going to have to be managing the cash flow on these against the outflow. So this, you're probably going to ask, how did we get here? And, you know, I think probably the best way to characterize it is there was some communication issues between the parties. Central Trust was buying bullets. When I say a bullet, what I mean by that is buying a bond with a set duration. In some cases, these are callable, but with interest rates where they are now versus what the purchase was, those bonds will not be called. We have some agency bonds with coupon rates below 1%. We have CDs. I don't think most of those are callable, and there are some treasuries as well. The structure of the investment account is in compliance, or is follows in the Missouri guidelines for municipalities. It's a very tight constraints. You can buy treasuries, agency bonds, not mortgage-backed bonds that are issued by agencies. Those are different animals. You can buy bank CDs that are insured by the FDIC and Missouri municipal bonds, both tax exempt as well as taxable bonds. Is that correct, Quan?
Yes.
Okay. So what was happening is that while the construction was going on, the COP funds and the interest income off that, as well as any allocations from tax revenues, were being used for construction. The cash flows that were in the capital fund were not matched up to the construction schedule. So this is where we are, and we have a clock to run, and we need to manage in terms of something. Like I said, unless rates turn down, which I don't expect anytime soon, or unless we take a loss, and we would want to avoid that, totally avoid that. Is there any questions before we?
Is there any offset related to the interest earned on the invested money?
The interest we earned from the COP money
Yes.
is about $3 million. Yeah, we use that money for capital projects.
Is there still any of that interest coming in now?
No,
or-
we have received all of them. The money has
Okay.
depleted.
And what was the total again?
About $3 million.
$3 million.
Interest.
Yeah, when we depleted what was called the Texas.
The taxes, yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Texas arrangement.
Yes.
So the only thing left is what's in the trust account at Central Bank. Michelle, are you having any questions?
No, this is Michelle.
No, yeah, no, not at this point.
Okay, so one of the things that I guess one of the issues here is while we're in this situation, I think Quan and Steve met with the bank earlier this year.
Yeah.
At this point, Quan is communicating the requirements to Central Bank. So in terms of where the cash needs are and where the durations are, so it's really kind of we're directing them at this point on how to invest the money. The thing that comes in with that is the fees that we're paying, while not significant to 25 million, it is something we need to talk about, and I want to talk about here. So the current arrangement with Central Bank is that we pay fees of, we pay 15 basis points of fees up to 30 million. No, is that right, Quan?
Yeah,
15 up to 30 million, 13 on the next 20 million, and 10 once we get over 50 million. So that's on the assets that's done on a monthly basis. I don't expect these two accounts combined, that's on a combined basis between these two funds. So I don't expect that we're going to get over 50 million, and maybe on a month or two when cash comes in January, February. But on an average basis, I expect it to be below 50 million. I guess the question that came up from my standpoint is given the tight constraints about the types of investments we can buy, there's next, well, theoretically very little risk, okay, in these assets, which is the intent of the Missouri statute. It's first protection of principal, and then secondly is getting income on that principal and those investments, but primarily it is to protect the asset itself. So if you think about what's happening, if our current structure, if we buy if central bank buys I'll say $1 million bond, okay, it's a 5-year duration, and we're paying 15 basis points. I had 20 here, okay. We are paying $7,500 over a 5-year period for them to hold that bond, okay. In the capital markets side of banks, another way of handling these kind of investments, when I say capital markets, when you get into banking arrangements, you have two different divisions. One is the trust department, which is where people or companies will turn assets over to the bank. Trust department, they will put together an investment policy or some kind of what I'll call an investment structure. If you think about your own personal investments, you can say, you know, I want to be 50-50 in equities and 50% in bonds. They manage the assets and you just turn it over to them. In the capital markets side of banks, which is a separate part of the banking operation, they deal strictly in fixed income securities. So treasuries, agencies, there used to be things like step-up bonds. I don't know that they're still issuing those in the agency market. And obviously the CDs and the municipals as well, but it's all fixed income. They don't handle equities. The fee arrangements in those areas are a transaction fee at the time a bond is purchased. And then there are, depending on the nature of the arrangement, what else you have at the bank, there may or may not be custodial fees involved. So if you think about over here where we're paying 15 basis points for a 5-year period, if we were in a different structure on capital markets side and we paid 15 basis points to buy that bond, we would pay $1,500 for them to purchase that bond, but that would be it, other than custodial fees, okay? And custodial fees, again, depends on your relationship with the bank, size of the account, et cetera, can run, you know, typically, I would say low single digits. So for rounding, I'll say 5, you know, just to make it easy, 5 basis points. So if you bought that bond, you're going to pay $500 for 5 years and $2,500 and plus your $1,500 transaction fee. So over the course of 5 years, you would have paid $4,000 in fees. So that's the fee difference here. Again, this is, you know, what I'm illustrating here is the difference in cost. With these types of securities, you really don't have any buying. You don't have any. You don't have much buying power because when you talk about whether you're buying $1 million bond or a $10 million bond, you're talking maybe a few basis points difference in terms of the yield you eventually get. So I think the question that's coming up here is, you know, how do we handle the fee structure with central bank? We did ask them to review their fee structure in light of, you know, just in light of the whole arrangement with them. We obviously use them on the banking side. They do provide, I will say, on the banking side, a favorable structure on the operating account because they pay what's probably considered a money market rate on the operating account. So where quant, it basically eliminates quant having to, you know, I'll call micromanage the cash flow. But as an example, as of the this is as of the 29th, the rate on the checking account is 2.16%. So, and it's probably going to be higher as rates turn up. I think banks are finally responding to the rate environment. So that's a plus. I think the question is, we haven't gone out, as I understand, for bids on the trust account activity since 2016.
Yes.
Correct. I'm not suggesting we do. One, this is not while 30 and 40 and 50 million is a lot of money, it's not, on the capital markets side, it's not a large account. And again, because of the constraints, it is not complex, what I'll call the statutory constraints. So my preference that I would like to recommend to the committee at this point is that we work with central bank to see if we can get fees a little more in line with what I think the market probably is, and then bring that back to the committee, and we'll discuss that and make some decisions.
Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable approach to what I'm hearing. One question, Juan, and that is, since the arrangement was made with Central Bank, why we frequently heard from them in the Finance Committee. They came in, I don't know how many times a year, but I lost track of it, but they came in fairly frequently. And in the last year, we haven't heard from them.
That was before pandemic started. So we did not have an in-person meeting for the past 2 years.
Okay, so they were not in. It seems like they
They
did
come
come
back to office
Okay.
last year, but they worked from home in 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think the schedule, if Quan can keep this up, will make their job very easy. The operating side, fill in the gaps. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I must apologize for going off the tangent, but considering the very limited scope there is within the investment opportunities, is it plausible to have a brokerage account and run through the library directly in-house?
The answer is yes. I would like to, I have the contact at the Missouri Treasurer's Office, and I just haven't called him. I haven't had time to call him. I think I'd rather do that with Quan. We can do that. The one thing the trust, in my view, provides is a gate.
I know there's certainly an appearance issue here, but again, okay.
Well, to answer your question, yes, Quan could run this through a brokerage account. Okay, I am very confident of that. The issue you get into if you have an account through a brokerage is you have to have the control structure around it so that the cash doesn't disappear. And that's the one thing the trust provides. It would be the same if we went to a capital markets structure. You have that gate in front of you. Money doesn't go out unless you have, you'd have your authority that says it requires 2 signatures. One of those would be yours, probably mine as well, before money comes out of that account, other than for transfers into the operating account that Quan would have authority to do. So answer is yes, we should ask the question and find out, but that's the one thing that I think this relationship provides. That's worth a little bit from the security standpoint, and the board being able to tell the public that those funds are not at risk.
Makes sense.
Okay. Any other questions on that? I'll move on. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the capital plan. What you have on board docs is a rather lengthy document. The intent of the request that was initially made to Susan was to pull together a summary accounting. And so we're not going to go through this. Cody, can you flip to the next page? Or okay, so This is the summary page. There are 91 pages of detail behind it, which is a transaction register. What we would like to see is something that is comparable to, and I'm not going to hold this up again, but comparable to pages 8 and 9 of the original 2017 facilities plan. This book that was put together that shows the branch or by branch and location, what the estimated costs were. It also has the summary level in terms of the other expenses, as well as what the revenue sources, expected revenue sources were. So I'd like to table this item and move it to the board. Ask Ron to do that for next Tuesday's board meeting. And we'll take it up a board level. But this is something we have to get put together to say, here's how the funds were expended based comparison to the original budget and by what I'll call by major category. So is this detail available in Excel? Is that where, what's the format? Certainly. It is. Okay. Okay. So that's kind of where I am with this thing. Any questions on the committee side? But we're not going to go through 91 pages of detail today.
Thank you.
So we'll put that on the. I've asked Ron to put it on the agenda for Tuesday. And we'll take it up there, and we'll bring it back next month. Okay.
Well, just a question, how would the board take up 91 pages of?
Well, it's not. I think what I've asked is, I guess, the board to provide some direction on the information at once. So I don't think it's a committee issue since it came through the request, the level of requests are coming from the board. I'd like the direction to come from the board as opposed to the committee. So that's really about it. Okay, next item is number 9 is the updated finance and accounting software. You want me to do a brief, or do you want to do it?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, why don't you take it?
Yeah. Well, we have used a software from a company called Blackball since 2002. We have been locally hosting software and data. A few years ago, the company started moving to a new direction. They like to host the software and the data for our clients, we call the cloud-based operating system. They have stopped upgrading the locally hosted version. And we had some hesitation to move to the cloud-based based on the feedback from other clients and based on the risk we're going to take. But at this point, I believe that's the direction to go. So we can take advantage of the new features and upgrades offered by the company. So 2 things here. One is the cost is going to be higher. Right now, it's about $20,000 for the financial package locally hosted. That's per year cost. With cloud-based, it will be a little over $30,000 per year. The other thing is we have to give the control of the financial data to Blackball. We have to trust them to safely manage the data we have. Those are the quick review of the upgrade.
Just a couple of comments because I got on a call with the sales rep with Quan just to, I guess, kind of answer some questions and get some additional information. This when people talk about the cloud, I usually, I sort of tongue in cheek say it's a warehouse somewhere on the end of town. So whether that's in Lenexa or out in Independence, I don't know which. But the connection, the connection feature, you go through a VPN from our system here and into their system. So there's two sets of security logins. This is hosted. This is a Microsoft Azure system. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Pardon?
I believe so, yeah.
And in terms of the host, we're not going with somebody who's not known. I can tell you the only other experience I've had with or know about is Platte County, who doesn't use this vendor, but that vendor in the month of June had a big outage. And all their clients were down for at least a week, some for more. So there are risks with this that come with it. The nice thing is that we can set up a structure to where our data is downloaded every day and backed up on our own systems. So they will have obviously backup on their systems. We can have backup. It can be as frequently as every day. It can be on a frequent basis if we so choose. But there are risks that come with turning it over, as Quan says, to a third party. It's a 3-year commitment. At least it's a 3-year commitment from their side. Obviously, the contract has the appropriate wording in there that says if we don't budget for it, it doesn't happen. There's no obligation, but it's the same price for 3 years, $30,232. I would characterize this in a very simple sense. No different than Microsoft 365, where if you're paying monthly service fees, you always have the most current version of the software. So unlike the current desktop version, which requires upgrades and obviously staff time to handle those upgrades and maintenance that is local, this puts this eliminates all those labor costs and technical requirements, puts them on the vendor, and basically Brian's team would be responsible for really just connectivity and backups. So that
I would like to point out there is some risk with running outdated software and running on an old server. So
well, exactly,
There's
yeah,
security risk.
yeah. So yeah, no, and that's the risk of staying with it is you have no support,
right.
And that the trend, and I'm not going to speak. This is Brian's area, but the trend in most of these companies is to get everybody on the same platform, because then they're not maintaining multiple platforms and having all their costs.
It's called software as a service.
Yeah, and it gets very expensive for both sides. So in terms of the fees, there's a limit on concurrent users, but relative, the one question I had was on the disbursement side. There's no limit on what is called the non-financial users. So if we have 100 different employees in the library who can approve invoices or issue POs, that doesn't count as a user. Let's see. After 3 years, we do have a clause in the contract that says after 3 years, the maximum rate increase they can do is 8%. Correct?
Yes, that's
Okay. And there are some issues of workflow that's what I've mentioned in the cash disbursements. There are some workflow issues that will have to get implemented, and we want to make sure we're viewing those on a current basis. So from the technical side, there's multiple redundancies. Again, we'll leave it to Brian and his team to coordinate the backup side. So the timeline, this is not simply just install it, flip a switch, and away we go. There's a fairly intensive conversion structure with the database installation, testing, and then at some point you rerun the database and flip the trigger and you go live with everything. So there's some work to be done. on both parties' side. So I support the move. I think it's a good decision. Again, this is Quan and Brian's decision from a risk standpoint, from a cost standpoint. There is no budget adjustment, even though we're spending it's about $11,000 more. But this is within the IT line item budget, and there's sufficient dollars in that line item, so we don't need a separate.
That includes Razor's Edge for,
Pardon me?
that includes Razor's Edge for Diana also for the fundraising software.
Overall budget can cover it.
Yes.
Right, yeah, the fundraising side is 19,000, but it's about the same. So it's between the two, it's 38,000. So I don't know, do we need a vote on this? We do? Okay.
You said it's within the budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the motion if someone wants to make the motion, is to move to recommend the full board to approve the upgrade of the library's financial software to Blackbaud Financial Edge and NXT, a cloud-based system. The annual cost not to exceed $30,232. And again, that is a 3-year commitment from their side.
Okay, so my understanding is that this is recommended by staff, finance staff, and by technology staff. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I would make that motion.
I'll second that, Michelle.
Okay, is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Michelle, aye.
Okay, Yummy, aye.
And that's me as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good going with that. Okay, the last item, or last primary item is the 22-23 budget. There were some pages up, they're okay. You can hold there. The on board docs, and I think in front of you have the revised budget book. As you recall, the board approved reducing revenues and expenditures by $1,013,10. Staff has gone through that, and what you're seeing in front of you now are the line item changes, some decreases and some increases, with the total net reduction of $1,013,10. In the budget book, I'm just going to point out that in comparison to the previous fiscal year just ended, the 21-22 year, from an overall standpoint, this revised budget is 5.3 million higher than the actual expenditures in the previous fiscal year. Payroll and benefits is higher by $2,686,000. Materials are higher by $567,000, and library operations are higher by $2,047,000. So I didn't intend to walk through. Quan has, the staff has done this. These are the recommendations, and I guess unless there are questions, well, we can ask questions, but I'd like a motion to approve the revised budget. So, Ron, is there a second?
Yeah, second, this is Yummy.
All right, so then so there's been a motion and a second, and is there additional discussion?
What's lost?
There's a summary page for the details about reductions. I put in the budget.
It's back on the first, Cody, if you go back on the first,
Why is this handout cheaper?
Yes.
John, I can give you this paper.
That's in the, I think that I put in the budget for you.
That's right. I think that's the top page you have there, John. It's this,
It's that one.
it's this page here.
This one.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So if you look on the reduction, the biggest reduction is the, in payroll, that's a net reduction of $453,000. That's a combination of salary and benefits. The next one is the library materials. We reduced databases by about $200,000. We have unpaid databases for the amount, so we just reduce that. And the e-reference, that's $150,000. Periodicals, $20,000. And the material processing cost is close to $100,000. For other operational accounts, the biggest reduction in utilities, that's about $128,000. The next one is the off-duty police officers and the building disinfection service. That's a total amount of $113,500. Next one, we canceled ALA midwinter conference and some trainings. So for a total amount of about $65,000. Next one is in IT budget. A fundraising website will be paid by a grant. So we reduced $34,000 for that purpose. Also, we will cancel the Farview Media Box. That's a technology expenditure. So in tech budget, that's a reduction about $45,700. Next one is we will slowing down the AWE computers upgrade. That's computers for children. We will only spend $25,000, and we propose to reduce by about $50,000 for that purpose. The next one is we will scale. We may cancel most of the holiday decorations at branches. We can save about $30,000. Marketing budget will be reduced by $10,000, and membership fees by about $4,000. So that's the details about the budget reduction.
Yeah, I'm not okay with cutting the security at all. So if that's what it's going to be, that's not going to work for me. This, the employee's safety is that one's just not going to fly.
You want me to speak to that? Michelle, this is Jennifer. Two things. We are having difficulty getting access to outside security. So we are increasing internal security staff. So.
Okay, what do you mean having? Is it that off-duty officers aren't signing up for the job, or
they're not available? Like, for instance, in Independence, this is what I understand. According to Dustin, they're down about 40 officers, so they're not even coming out on calls while they're on duty that are anything, less than immediate danger. So they're just not available. So we've talked about this over time, and we've met with Dustin, and so we've decided to kind of shift the strategy and look at some ways that we can address security issues with additional security specialists internally.
Michelle, this is Richie. That same scenario has been the same for Grandview as well, and Raytown. We've had either no signups or either no show-ups, one or the other. So there's been difficulties there.
Okay, well, those are smaller departments, but what about like the Kansas City branches that we do have it in? I mean, I know Boardwalk's closed now, But what do we do? I mean, what are we doing there? Or is it just a smaller department?
I think we'd have to, I mean, I think we'd have to have Dustin answer those questions. And I apologize that he's not here, but, you know, this cut and the recommendation to try to work on some internal solutions, you know, came from Dustin. So he has, in fact, he and I have another meeting tomorrow to talk some more about how this staffing will work. I don't know, you know, the intent is to have more, like have regions or branches assigned to a person. So instead of a couple of people taking care of the whole system, and then we can look at evaluating where we're at that point when we have some more boots on the ground looking at how things are going.
Okay. Hi, this is Yummy. I just have a little confusion. And the confusion is when you say cut, like a decrease, you don't mean from last year. Does this represent cuts from the original budget? So I guess my question is, like security, is that being reduced from last year actually, or is that just being reduced from the projected proposed budget?
Last year spending.
Both. In the proposed budget, there was a $100,000 budget for off-duty officers. And we, under the new proposed budget, we are going to eliminate that budget line. And the last year, we also had a close to $200,000 budget for off-duty police officers, but we only spent about $20,000 or $30,000.
Okay, so you're saying that the money is just being used in another way, like for the internal security. So what I'm hearing is that Dustin is comfortable with this, that the library will be at least as secure, probably more secure than last year. Is that what is being proposed?
That's what we would hope. But yes, we are hoping that we can, you know, that we are, you know, that's the intent, is that we want to make sure that not just that we have, you know, guards present, because that's still difficult to do even when police departments have been staffed and we've had access to that, but also work on helping staff with training and also helping them with having more security staff available to interact with those customers who have a harder time following the rules. So.
Well, and I don't know. I mean, I guess I would have to know more of, I don't know what we're paying either. And to be honest, that could be an issue because I know that they're having problems finding off-duty officers for a lot of places, and the highest paying jobs win.
That's what the rate they ask.
Yeah, we pay when we do off-duty officers, Michelle, we pay whatever their asking rate is, because that is coordinated through their dispatch. So whatever their asking rate is what we pay for that. But I think that we've talked about this. I'm pretty sure that at some point, once we it's more firm about what this next phase looks like for Dustin and his team, that he would come. I think Ron asked for that he would come present to the board where we're at and where we hope to be, what that plan is.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, the question is, the disinfection, was that part of the COVID protocol?
Yes, we budgeted for 4 times disinfections per year. We cut it by half.
And that was connection with the COVID concern. Question regarding payroll. I know that I know that the capital committee, building committee is making every effort to squeeze the Independence East Library into the capital plan because trying to, because of major increases in all construction areas. So, efforts are being made to do that. So we don't know whether those efforts will succeed or not yet, but assuming they will succeed, we don't, that's not an existing library. So we have to staff that. Is that library, does this payroll increase affect in any way the ability to staff Independence?
It will. I don't think that, looking at this year's budget, that we can say that that without some staff adjustments somewhere else, or not implementing, and not compensating people, according to the information that we're that we're currently receiving on the compensation analysis, that we could also then add staff. But we don't know that yet until we know what it's going to take to staff, what it would take to staff that building, and what the results are going to be of some of the, the information that we're looking at now on how to make sure that we are staffed correctly. But as of right now, if you were to say to me, add staff for East Independence for 7/1/23, that would have to come from somewhere.
Well, just as a guess, what would that staffing be if East Independence does meet the requirements of being low enough to proceed and goes forward? What would be the staffing requirements there?
Did you think 6 or 8?
It would be about 7, right in
So,
between there. We're
7
to East Independence. I'm sorry, East Summit.
I would guess it would, for a year plus benefits, that we would be looking at about $600,000 to $750,000. That's what we're looking at. That would be, of course, like year one, based on, in my head, thinking about the average salary for an FTE and about what we would look to spend on part-time. But again, I think we're working on doing some more evaluations on the particularly on the part-time side, but what it costs to how many people we need to staff a building for particular services. So that could, be adjusted based on what services are offered at that branch when it's open. So,
Right. Okay.
Quan, I thought in our discussions in your cash flow that East Independence was a 24 opening, not even anywhere in this budget at all. So
Not in this budget, no.
So I guess I'm wondering, why would we consider staffing within the current year budget when it's in no earlier than a subsequent year? And I thought it was a calendar 24 opening.
Probably, yes.
So-
Not in this current year
So
budget.
when you say 7/1/23, there's no.
no, there's not. That was just the date that I was giving for, like, if I'm thinking about going beyond this year. So like, even when I write, look at a current year's budget, I am looking at the next two because, giving pay increases or annuities, all of those things. So we want to make sure that we're thinking about that next year. So, if it's 7/1/24, but again, if it's 7/1/24, we have more time to try to look and see if there's, places where that could be adjusted. But if you ask me right now, I don't know without some more work on moving things around somewhere else where that would come from. So yes, for this year, this is what it is. But I do think that at some point we'll have to determine what path we're on for East Independence in terms of, building it now, building it later, whatever that's going to be, because it impacts everything.
Okay. Well,
And what our priorities are in terms of what we want to do for staff. So.
Yeah. So I just think we ought to keep that. We don't really know the answer to that yet, but I think it's a concern.
Any other questions?
Well, just
Ron?
one little minor thing that it really is minor, $4,000 for trustees to have ALA memberships. Does that affect our ability to get the PLA magazines and things that we normally get from PLA? Is that?
Yes.
Yes, total membership.
Okay, well, I mean, personally, a lot of the trustees have been to the PLA conference. Frankly, I don't have a whole lot of use for the ALA national conference, but the PLA, which is almost a subdivision, it's not really, but it acts like a subdivision of ALA. I hate to give that up. I mean, I think they're members of this committee, been to the PLA conferences and benefited greatly from that. I certainly when I first came on, and I think there are others that have, and others that should. All members actually should go to the PLA conference if you're going to be a trustee, because I think that it's really worthwhile. So I hate to see us give up that opportunity to get the materials. I do read the PLA. I don't read the ALA magazine, but I do read the PLA magazine, which is extremely useful. As a trustee, I think I'm concerned about not having that membership.
Yeah, and I could speak to that a little bit. I think that $4,000 is what, about $200 times 12 people. Is that where we got that number? I think that membership, it runs about $200.
200 each.
Well, roughly, that's a little high, but
Probably
Is it
around
$300?
$300, yeah.
Okay, I think that's how they got that number. So I've purchased maybe 3 or 4 per year, maybe. I mean,
So is this the entire budget or is this a partial reduction?
Yes, well, we had a $4,000 budget line, travel and conference in the proposed budget. By cutting that, the trustees can still go to the conference, but you have to pay a little bit higher rate for registration. In the past, not every trustees want to go to the conference.
Right.
Only a very few of them will. So that's the reason.
So I guess the question is for the trustees that want to
Yeah.
maintain their membership, like, John wants to do that. Do we have room in this revised budget for that?
I believe the overall travel and conference budget can cover that.
So we won't affect your membership then,
Okay.
or anybody else that wants to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Assuming you
Well,
don't have 100%. Sorry, go ahead.
This is yummy. I'm just saying, I would sort of like to know what's going on, with these associations, but I've never received anything, any magazine, anything about it. So maybe I should have been. Maybe this is something for Teresa, if you could look into why I've never received anything from these associations.
and it's just because you're not a member. They only send out the publications if you become a member. We may have spoke about it maybe at the time, when people come onto the board, if you want to join them, they're not mandatory to join or anything like that, but we could certainly sign you up, and then, you would start getting all the publications.
Can you?
Yeah,
circulate
no,
that
I
to the
was never,
trustees and
yeah.
Find out, so.
Yes.
I mean, what I'm hearing from Quan is there's within the overall, because this falls within the operations budget, correct? And we have 2 million plus over last year.
Yeah.
It sounds like there's plenty of room. So can you circulate that to the trustees and ask who wants to join,
Absolutely,
maintain their membership and or join?
absolutely.
I'm kind of with John. We don't need to cut that.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
But that doesn't affect, well, I guess.
The reduction can be just $4,000. We did not have to specify the budget line item. We
So
can
we
just say
can-
reduce $4,000 for the total continuing education and a conference
Okay,
account.
which is,
Which is the 5470, the old one, 5470.
okay,
Well, I think it is correct that all the trustees will not want to go or not able to go.
Well-
But there'll be some that will, and I would hope all would, but I know from the past history that that's not the case. So
well, just
as
so.
long as we've got enough to accommodate the few that want to go, I think that makes
Yeah,
sense.
you can still
So
go
just for reference, John, I'm looking at the current budget. This revised budget is 245,000, right, Quan?
Yeah, yes.
So I'm looking at the highest in the last several years. The highest number was 2018 at 183,000.
Okay,
So there's, it looks like there's plenty of room.
all right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? So the motion on the floor, there's a motion and a second on the floor for the, Cody, can you go back to the motion? Do we have a motion wording?
Yes.
Put together.
I do not have a motion in the presentation.
I can read it.
Okay, please.
Okay. Move to recommend to the full board a motion to adopt the revised fiscal year 2022 through 2023 budget as submitted by staff.
Ron and Yummy, that's okay?
Sure.
Well, just a question for our council, should we quantify the adjustment in it by a dollar amount or, I don't know.
For that,
Well, the revised budget, Cody, if you'll go to the next page. So the revised budget, you'll see in the changes column, the total revenues are reduced by $1,310,000. And if you go to the next page, the total expenditures are reduced by $1,310,000. So we can put it in the motion or we can just accept the revised budget as presented. That's fine. Okay. All right. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Hi, Michelle.
Okay, and I'm also an aye, so that's five, all five. Okay, thank you. I don't have any other business. Do you have any business?
No visitors' comments.
no.
Other business.
Okay. I'll call for an adjournment.
So move.
Second. All in favor, say aye.